8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news, edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Indrani Senanayake. The headlines. Minister of Power and Energy says that all state-owned enterprises need restructuring. Farmers' deposits in agricultural banks exceed 6 billion rupees. A Sri Lankan attempting to smuggle gold jewellery worth 55 million rupees was nabbed at the Katunayake airport. 5, including woman arrested over Gampaha daylight shooting. A special security program is in place to protect the Ratmalana railway workshop from thieves. In foreign news, thousands told to evacuate as rivers rise in Pakistan. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says that all state-owned enterprises need to be restructured. In a Twitter, the lawmaker said political decisions, political appointments, mismanagement and incompetence have led to the downfall of the public service. Minister Wijesekara opined that the majority of the public workforce would not be able to survive in the private sector or be recruited at all. Performance-based salary is a must, he added. While there are capable and efficient employees at the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited, CPSTL, the majority are inefficient and incompetent, the minister further said. A good workforce, instead of the 4,200, could do the job efficiently at the CPC, CPSTL, and half of the 26,000 workforce at the CEB. Trade unions thrive on inefficient members. The deposits of farmers in the agricultural banks, which are run in connection with the agrarian service centres, have now exceeded 6 billion rupees. Agricultural bank officials have revealed this during a discussion with the Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira. This discussion was held regarding the expansion of the services provided to farmers by the agricultural banks run in the agricultural service centres to provide an efficient service to the farmers. Currently, there are 556 agricultural banks associated with 556 agricultural centres across the country, with a total membership of 1.3 million. Sri Lanka customs officials at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunayake have arrested a Sri Lankan man who was attempting to smuggle gold jewellery worth 55 million rupees early this morning. The 38-year-old suspect is a resident of Malabe who was returning from working in France for about 10 years. According to the customs officials, the suspect arrived at the Katunayake airport on the Sri Lankan Airlines flight UL 564 from Paris today at 5:45 in the morning. He was arrested at the departure lounge when he attempted to leave through the Green Channel. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with local news. 5 suspects, including a woman, have been arrested in connection with the brazen daylight shooting inside a hair salon in Gampaha earlier this month, in which a youth was murdered. The arrests were made in a raid carried out by the officers of the Police Special Task Force at the Gonahena camp. The suspects, aged between 23 and 29 years, were identified as residents of Petiagoda, Makevita and the Kotogoda areas. Meanwhile, the revolver and the car used by the perpetrators in the shooting were also taken into custody. The suspects were slated to be produced before the Gampaha Magistrates Court today. The Gampaha police is conducting further investigations into the incident. A special security program is in place to protect the Ratmalana railway workshop from thieves. Within the 34 acres of land, there are 34 massive factories that have been maintained from the time of the British. This happens to be the largest railway workshop in Asia. There is a threat from thieves to claim this property. A police investigating team has revealed that an organized criminal gang is looting this property and the workshop by threatening the workers. Minister Bandula Gunawardena has advised the authorities to implement a new security plan with the support of the police and the railway department.
story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The United States, through the U.S. Department of Agriculture and in partnership with Save the Children, donated 320 tons of split yellow peas to nourish school children across Sri Lanka, a statement from the U.S. Embassy said. The donation is part of a larger one of 3,000 tons of food. U.S. Ambassador Julie Chung, Dr. Susil Premajayantha, Minister of Education, and representatives from the Ministry of Health, the National Planning Department, and Save the Children attended the handover ceremony. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
The residents of the Galle district have requested the provision of permanent land deeds expeditiously. They stated that they are facing many difficulties to obtain their land deeds. It has also been reported that they have to face problems due to racketeers requesting money from them. This is for the attention of the Land Commissioner's office in the province, and that came to you in Watchlight.
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
World News headlines. Thousands told to evacuate as rivers rise in Pakistan. Ukraine's nuclear plant shelled. Japanese Prime Minister says Japan will invest $30 billion in Africa. Thousands of people who live in areas under threat of flooding in some parts of Pakistan have been told to evacuate. Aid agencies say current floods have led to one of the country's worst disasters as the heaviest monsoon rains in decades continue. Nearly 1,000 people have died since June, while thousands have been displaced and millions more affected. The government has been forced to declare a state of emergency in some parts of the country. Southern Pakistan has been hardest hit by the rains, particularly the Sindh province, which has received nearly 8 times its average August rainfall. Ukraine's state nuclear power company Energoatom said today that Russian forces had repeatedly shelled the premises of the nuclear power plant that is under Russian control in southeastern Ukraine. The company said as a result of periodic shelling, the infrastructure of the power plant has been damaged. There are risks of hydrogen leakage and sputtering of radioactive substances, and the fire hazard is high. Meanwhile, a Russian Defense Ministry spokesman blamed Ukraine for the attack. He says the Ukrainian forces had launched 17 artillery shells within a 24-hour period, with 4 of them hitting the roof of a nuclear fuel storage facility. Prime Minister Kishida Fumio says Japan's public and private sectors will invest $30 billion over the next 3 years to support growth in Africa. In an online address to the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, or TICAD, today, Kishida said Africa is a continent that is young, filled with hope, and is dynamic. He referred to the fact that Africa is projected to make up a quarter of the world's population by 2050. To end this bulletin of world news, we take a look at the headlines again. Thousands told to evacuate as rivers rise in Pakistan. Ukraine's nuclear power plant shelled. Japanese Prime Minister says Japan will invest $30 billion in Africa. That ends this bulletin of world news. On to development news. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Transport Board, Kingsley Ranawaka, says that 500 new buses will be purchased under the Indian credit loan proposal. 200 of these buses have already arrived in the country. In addition, 200 discarded buses have been refurbished and are presently in operation. The chairman has also pointed out that the target is to deploy 8,000 buses for the commuter transport service island-wide. That was development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
The cricket match between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan is now being played in the Dubai playground for the Asian Championship tournament. Batting first, Sri Lanka has scored 32 runs for the loss of 2 wickets a little while ago. That was sports news.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Commercial Bank of Ceylon has extended the reach of its National IT Education Initiative to encompass 5 more government teaching institutions to which the bank recently donated fully equipped IT labs and where necessary conducted building renovations. The latest beneficiaries of the bank's flagship corporate social responsibility program includes many colleges and technical vocational training institutes.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
On to economic news. The Asian Development Bank has signed an agreement with 5 leading global insurers which will mobilize up to $1 billion of co-financing capacity to support lending core financial institutions in the Asia-Pacific region. The Master Framework Program for Financial Institutions will allow ADB to increase its lending to both commercial banks and non-bank financial institutions in the region through the use of credit insurance. That was economic news. And finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department says that showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy rainfall, above 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or at night. Fairly heavy fall, about 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts. To end tonight's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. Minister of Power says that all state-owned enterprises need restructuring. Farmers' deposits in agricultural banks exceed 6 billion rupees. A Sri Lankan attempting to smuggle gold jewellery worth 55 million rupees was nabbed at the Katunayake airport. 5, including a woman, arrested over Gampaha daylight shooting. A special security program is in place to protect the Ratmalana railway workshop from thieves. And in foreign news, thousands told to evacuate as rivers rise in Pakistan. That ends tonight's news broadcast. The time reads 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Radio Sri Lanka.